Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kwame Morton, Acting Superintendent here at Cherry Hill Public Schools. And I am thrilled and excited to be here with you this evening. Having been through the process of transitioning a child into school 10 times, 10 times over. Yes. It's very exciting and literally also a scary time, to be quite honest, no matter how many times one has gone through that process. So we understand the emotions that you must be feeling right now, and that's sort of the purpose of this evening. I'm not going to steal Miss Winter's thunder and explaining the overview and purpose of tonight, but we are happy to be with you and to be able to provide some key information. I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce all of our panelists for this evening. From our Board of Education, our Board of Education President, Ms. Miriam Stern. Also from our Board of Education, Ms. Gina Winters. From our Board of Education, Ms. Corinne Elmore Stratton. From our Board of Education, Dr. Ben Rude. From Malberg Early Childhood Center, she told me not to butcher her name. Maureen, do you have to help me with the last name? Carosa, there we go. All right, excellent. From our central office, our transportation, supervisor of transportation, Ms. Linda King. And the principal here at the Malberg Early Childhood Center, Ms. Danielle Edwards. So these are our panelists here tonight. I will turn it over to Ms. Winters, who will facilitate and take us through.
Thank you so much, Dr. Morton. And I want to welcome everybody here tonight in the room and online, especially our new preschool families. We're really excited to have you here at the Malberg Early Childhood Center to discuss the new preschool expansion program. We chose to hold the meeting here tonight at Malberg because we thought it really would be the most comfortable and welcoming place for our new preschool families to come and meet us, because we know that for many of you, this is the first interaction you're having with our school district. We're thrilled that you're joining us. We're happy to welcome you. We're looking forward to a great night. Tonight, the way it's going to flow is that we'll start with a presentation just to give an overview of preschool expansion and what it will look like beginning in January. Next, our panel is going to answer a few questions that we have been receiving frequently from community members about the program, how it's funded, and its implementation. And then finally, there'll be an opportunity to take questions from community members, both in the audience here at Malberg and online. And we're going to end promptly at 8:30 p.m. So to get us started, I'd like to introduce Ms. Danielle Edwards, principal of the Malberg Early Childhood Center, and Ms. Linda King, who's our transportation supervisor, and they will be giving the presentation.
So preschool expansion is finally taken off. It's an honor to know the state is recognizing and supporting our efforts in providing universal preschool for Cherry Hill residents. The state notified us on October 18th that we have been awarded preschool expansion aid for full day preschool, which we have 5 years to serve 90% of our 3 and 4-year-olds within Cherry Hill. We are working under very condensed timelines for implementation, and we want to be sure that our program is implemented effectively and to best serve our cubs. This is a reminder of the children we serve. Providing preschool education allows us to build a strong foundation for our cubs that will complement the strong academic program that we currently provide for our K-12 students. In alignment with the New Jersey Department of Education's mission, the steps we are taking to provide universal preschool for our Cherry Hill residents highlights the commitment to enhancing social, emotional, physical, and cognitive development of our youngest learners. Now I will begin to discuss our pathway to providing preschool to more eligible Cherry Hill 3 and 4-year-old students. The key areas we have had to address to ensure a safe, high-quality preschool experience for our cubs starting January 2nd are the enrollment process, transportation, selection of private provider locations, staffing, and the development of an early childhood advisory committee. The state has awarded us with enough funding to open an additional 150 seats for 3 and 4-year-old students at provider sites. These seats are additional to the current seats at Malberg. Families on a wait list were notified the first week of November. Of those families, 97 accepted seats and 53 declined. Additional families were notified on November 21st to fill those 53 seats. These families have until December 1st to accept or decline the seat that they've been offered. It is important that families who have accepted enrollment complete the registration process. Students cannot be placed at a provider site until they are fully registered through our district. We will continue to contact families from our waitlist until all seats have been filled. Details about the enrollment process for the 24-25 school year have not been finalized yet. However, any 3-year-old that is enrolled in our program this school year will be automatically enrolled next year as a 4-year-old. As soon as we have those details about next year, it of course will be posted on our website. And now I'm going to pass it over to our transportation supervisor, Linda Keene, to discuss transportation.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. Transportation. Bus routes are being developed right now, and they will be placed out for quote on December 12th. Bids will follow at a later date. Quotes that are placed out on December 12th, there is a quote bid threshold of $22,400. If a quote doesn't go over that, then there will be no need for a later bid. An aide will be placed on each route. Students will be assigned to location, have been assigned to locations based on proximity. And what that means is we took all the students and their addresses, and using the Cherry Hill Township map, we found out what their home school was going to be for elementary school. That way they could start to build relationships and friendships in preschool and maybe even meet their lifelong friend and move on to elementary school, middle school, and high school with the same students that they went to preschool with. The district is required to provide transportation, but parents may decline transportation to take advantage of before and after school supports at private provider sites. And I just wanted to add, I did get a few questions came into the transportation department. No buses will be traveling on Route 295. So all of our routes will be routed, but no buses will be on 295.
So last winter, we met with local providers to share our desire to partner with them in our application process to the state to implement universal preschool. Through this process, we shared the requirements you see here and invited the providers to partner with us on this awesome journey to provide universal preschool to all Cherry Hill residents. All provider sites have been vetted by our district administration as well as the New Jersey Department of Education. Additionally, provider sites are required to adhere to all district policies and procedures, our district calendar, and our district curriculum. The program must follow the same 6-hour day and schedule that we have at Malberg. All staff at the provider sites are required to have the same state certifications as our district staff, as well as honor the same student to teacher ratios that we currently have here at Malberg. Staff at the provider sites will also be participating in all professional development provided to our Malberg staff. Here is the list of providers we currently have a partnership with. Although we reference the sites we are partnering with as private providers, we see them as community partners in providing a high quality preschool experience and program aligned with our district and the New Jersey Department of Education expectations. As mentioned previously, we invited all local provider sites to partner with us. So please encourage your local providers to reach out if they are interested in embarking on this journey with us. For families that have been placed at a provider site, there will be an open house at each provider site before the January start date. and that information will be emailed to those families separately according to the provider site that they have been placed at. Being that this will be a true partnership, all provider sites have already visited Marburg to see our staff and Cubs in action. They visited classrooms and even had the opportunity to visit our playground, to learn about our expectations and experience the joy we have here at Marburg. Additionally, our provider sites met with our district administration that is listed on this slide. And those members of our administration team have supported their programs and planning to ensure our district expectations are met at each site. To ensure a high quality program, additional staff positions are required by the state. The positions you see here have all been posted and we are currently in the interview process for each position. As our preschool program grows, more of these positions will become available and be filled to support our program. One position I would like to highlight is the community parent involvement specialist position. This role will be a vital role in the success of our program, as this person will support our community and the parents from Marburg and at our provider sites to ensure you all stay connected with our program and that your needs are being met through our program. Our district has also received a grant recently that will support our expansion of our preschool program. This grant will allow us to add 8 additional preschool classrooms to Kilmer and 8 additional preschool classrooms to Marburg. Additionally, it will allow us to add bathrooms in our current classrooms here at Marburg. We have compiled an FAQ that is available on our district and our Marburg website. As we receive questions, we will continuously update this document and add those questions to the document with our factual answers. I would like to thank you all for taking the time this evening to join us in this informational session. This has been an excellent opportunity for our Cherry Hill children, and we are excited for it. We will be able to provide close to 1,800 3- and 4-year-old students free preschool, which is a huge win for our community and the academic success of our students. Thank you.
Much, Danielle. We really, and Ms. King, because Edwards and Ms. King, sorry, we really appreciate the presentation. That was a lot of information to take in, so thank you. Next, we're going to move on to Ms. Wilson is going to ask some questions of the panel that have been frequently asked by community members heading into this meeting, so we can answer them for you.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Winters. The first question we have is, what is the rationale behind the preschool expansion?
So I'm going to take this question, and while I was thinking about it this afternoon, I realized it's really kind of 2 questions. The first one is, why are we doing preschool expansion? And the second one is, why now? So I'm going to break it down that way. The question, why are we doing preschool expansion? Why is this important for our district? I think the answer here is that the state has actually been doing this in other districts for over 20 years. The state has a model that they've used and studied, and it includes features like certified teachers for preschool, developmentally appropriate play-based curriculum, and small class sizes. These features are research-based, and they've been proven to positively impact student learning and achievement. And that's not only in preschool and transitioning to kindergarten, but through the rest of their academic careers. So while we were thinking about that and looking at the big picture of how do we positively impact our students in Cherry Hill academically, and how do we address the opportunity gaps that we see, preschool became an essential long-term component of academic achievement in Cherry Hill. It's not just for right now, it's for the future. The benefits given to you by preschool will follow your children as they grow all the way through graduation. So that's sort of why we think preschool is important. And then the second question, and I think it's a big one, is why are we doing it now? Why is now the moment? And I think for me, it comes down to 2 things. It's opportunity and access. So just so you know, I was sitting in those seats that you're in many times. I have 3 children who all came here to this building, to the Malberg Early Childhood Center, and went to preschool. But the preschool program they attended was very different than the one that is going to be happening in the future. It was a half-day program. There was no transportation included, and it was tuition-based. This is for general education students. Even with all of that, there was always a wait list for it. There's a demand in this community for preschool programs for our children, and the demand has always exceeded the amount of seats that are available. When the state released information about the current funding opportunity, we realized that this was the chance to make preschool accessible to all of our children and to also make it tuition-free. The model that the state has of a mixed delivery program where some classrooms are housed in district buildings like this one and some are with our community provider private partners is going to allow us to expand preschool so that everybody can have access to it. A year was spent discussing the opportunity. Other districts in the state were opting in. When I joined the board in last fall, I was really excited to join the conversation. And when we realized the difference that tuition-free preschool could make for our families and our students to help them all really be prepared to access the new full-day kindergarten curriculum that we worked on, we decided it was time to move. We know the state is eventually going to move to universal preschool, and the funding opportunity was too good to pass up. So we decided that if other districts were doing it, we should do it too and bring these opportunities to Cherry Hill students. That's why we applied, and thankfully we're successful in getting preschool for Cherry Hill starting in January.
Okay. Next question is, how will the expansion be funded?
So the funding source is from the Department of Education from the state of New Jersey, and it is a 5-year ramp up. So year 1, we have received actually a significant amount of money, a little bit over $3.4 million to launch our next phase of this expansion. And every year, the funding that we will receive funding per student. It will actually become part of our school funding budget that we get from the state. So currently we get funding from the state for our other K through 12 students. Now this will be part of our funding stream. So, or we could call it for eventually part of our state aid. Right now it's categorized a little bit differently, just the way budgets are done, but that's where it is. So once the money is part of our budget, now that we've been awarded, it is here to stay. So that's really exciting, especially when, as someone who spent a lot of time advocating for fair funding, this is a significant value add that we are now adding to our budget specifically for these students.
Okay, next question. Why is there a preschool wait list?
Sure. So I will jump in, and this isn't practice at all, right? It doesn't seem okay. I'm sorry. Just had to, it was feel a little dry. Okay. So the top reasons that there's a wait list is really the top priority for our little cubs, as Ms. Edwards said, is to make sure that we have a safe, high quality learning environment for everyone. And so Cherry Hill's not immune to the things that are happening nationally in terms of staffing, in terms of educational support staffing. And so with that, we don't want to just fill the seats just to fill the seats, and then we'll be back in here explaining to you why it's not working, right? So the priority for us before we add on is to make sure that safety is the priority, everything is in place. And then for that, we have to make sure we have the proper adults in the room, so enough staff as educators and even educational support staff to work with our young people. And then the final thing is spacing, just so that we want to make sure that every student is offered or has access to the same amount of resources, and that includes spacing and access to any educational supports. There you go.
Okay, next question. Why was Joyce Kilmer School chosen to have additional classrooms added?
I'll rock, paper, scissors again.
We're gonna get over and fight over who's gonna answer this one.
She said liven it up.
So there were just when we heard that not only was this amazing opportunity for our own students, our own town to get free preschool expansion money. I call it free because it's not really free. We all pay, right? We pay taxes, but to have it come into our district versus going to other districts, we thought, okay, well, where are we going to put these students, right? Because this is our preschool building. Now, not every school district has a preschool building. We already had one, so that was great. We were already one step ahead, but obviously we're going to need way more space. 1,800 students, that's huge. We currently have just under 12,000 in our district. So that's a very large expansion, right? So we were like, well, ideally we could build onto schools, but any of you, and many of you may not be very aware of the fair funding challenge we've been up against for many years, but our district was very underfunded by the state for many years. And we weren't able to add on to our buildings. We struggled to even pay to maintain our buildings. So luckily, we had huge support from our taxpayers. We passed the bond. That's now handled. So now we have this good problem to have where we're going to put these kids. So we needed to find school buildings and school properties that actually had space on the property to expand in a way that made sense, right? You don't want to put an addition of preschoolers on a building where you can't easily access where the school is not easily accessed through the driveway. You want it to be a safe area, a safe route, and there needed to be enough space on the property. And that only left us with a few options in Cherry Hill. We also look at the expansion on the west side. In terms of, we want to ensure we're meeting the needs. We know there's a high demand and a high need on the west side of Cherry Hill. We thought it was best to put the first set of classrooms on the west side. And that's why we chose what Joyce Kilmer was the best school available in terms of the property and the location to do that. And for those of you who don't know, we were awarded these ROD grants, they're called. The state has not offered ROD grants for over 10 years. So it's the first time they're offering money to districts like ours to build on and to expand. So we're very grateful we were chosen for the ROD grants. So we're now building on to, as the slide said earlier, we'll build onto this building, we'll build on to Joyce Kilmer, and we're also going to add other they're called toilet rooms. They're not called bathrooms because they don't have showers. They're called toilet rooms. We're adding toilet rooms to make sure that's an important feature when you have preschools and you have staffing. You want to make sure it's easy to get the kids to the bathroom. So we want to make sure we've got that. So there it is.
So those are the big questions we've been getting from the community at large, but now it's time for everybody's favorite part of the night, is we're looking forward to hearing from you. So we are going to take questions both in the room and online. There's also a chat feature that people, if they don't want to speak, but they have a question, they can enter it into the chat feature. It is only 7:24, so we have plenty of time for questions. Like I said, we're going to end promptly at 8:30, but we're hoping that we can get many of your questions answered tonight. And like I said, I've said many times, if we don't know the answers, we will find out and get you guys some accurate information, because like Dr. Morton said in the beginning, we're all parents up here. We've all had preschoolers, and we all know how important it is that you feel like your kids are going to a safe place, that you feel that you understand the program going forward, that you're comfortable with what we're doing. So we're hoping to get you the information that you need tonight. So thank you for coming out. Okay, and I think we're going to start in the room as we usually do. So anybody who has a question for us, you can feel free to come on up to the microphone and ask us your question. Oh, before you get started, coming into the room is Miss Caitlin Mallory, who's the Director of Special Education for the district for all your.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Janine Pleasure from Cherry Hill. I was wondering, the before and after school programs, when will we find out more information about that, cost and stuff like that? Is it SAC? I don't know.
So SAC will not be provided at Malberg Early Childhood Center in district. The before and after school opportunities that are going to be provided at the provider site are solely ran by the providers. They are not associated with the district. So more information will be provided about that when the families join the open houses that will be held at each provider site.
However, I'll add to that Like Ms. Winters said, we've all been parents, and I was once a single mom and sat on these side of these seats, but had to walk away because I was like, who the heck can do half a day? So we are going to, or we have a plan to, well, I'll say, they have a plan to, because I'm done in December. They have a plan to go ahead and revamp, not revamp, but take a look at SAC and how we're offering it. And get some consultants in here that can show us how we can safely do preschool before and after care, whether it be here, whether it be including them at Kilmer. So we're just definitely going to be looking at all those options because we know that that's a top priority as well. So just stay tuned, but don't give up hope.
Hi, hello.
1 second, we're gonna switch on and off between in the room and online, just so everybody gets a chance. Stay right there, you'll be next. Yesel Tamayo, you're next, if you can unmute yourself. Yesel Tamayo, if you have your hand up online, if you can just unmute yourself, we are ready for your question. Okay, so Debbie Data, I don't know what your real first and last name is, but if you can unmute yourself, you can be next to, you can please say your first and last name and ask your question. Thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm currently staying in Cherry Hill, and I'm near to the school, like 2 miles away, and my son just turned 3 on July this year. And also I registered for the preschool for Marburg, and I also visited the Marburg, but still I'm on waiting list right now. And can I know when can I get any confirmation for him for 4 years old or anything?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
So I registered him in the preschool program, but I'm still in waiting list. So when can I know a confirmation? Like when can I get any email or anything?
There is not a timeline on when we will call more students up from the current wait list. We are calling as we fill seats and families register or decline their spot.
Okay, so another question is, do I need to provide any more information like my home mortgage thing or anything for that, or I'm still good?
No,
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
We're gonna go back into the room. The next person.
Hi, Julie Wisniewski, Chapel Avenue resident. Lucky enough for my second grader to be in Kilmer. So my question is, if my daughter was chosen to go to an outside provider like Discovery Corner, as I got just before I came to this meeting, next year for the fall, will she be eligible for the classroom in Kilmer so they can go to the same school?
so once students are placed at a provider site, the goal is to keep them there for the 2 years. The construction at Kilmer will not be complete.
It
for
won't be
next school
complete by
year.
next fall.
No.
Okay, so we'll just be living through the construction. Okay.
Yes.
Got it. I have a second question that is up for transportation as a follow-up. So the bid is going out in December. Did I understand the email correctly that there might not be transportation when school starts January 2nd and that we'll be responsible for taking them to and from school?
We put that on all of our, even when you register,
Right.
even if you were registering as a kindergartner or first grader, second grader, but the quotes will go out on December 12th. And as contractors quote, and we award the quote, which hopefully will be on December 19th, then we will place all that information into our bus, which reads into Genesis. And then you'll be able to go onto the parent portal, but you will be notified to look onto the parent portal for your information.
So it's expected that day one, there's bus transportation.
I always hope that there's transportation for every student. in
Only
Cherry
because
Hill.
the school times are the same and they're in two different places. And
So-
my husband and I working rely on one grandparent to take
Right.
them.
So again, the goal is for there, yes, to be transportation
Always.
on that first day of school. Again, the most important piece right now is the registration piece. So the quicker we can get through all of the families being registered, the quickly we can get the ball rolling on transportation.
Okay.
So that's the most important piece, is to ensure that everyone completes registration and get all their documents in and things, so we can have placements and have the bids ready for January 2nd.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna go back to the online callers. The next person online is H Silva. H Silva, if you can unmute yourself, we are ready for your question. Say your full name, please.
Hi, my name is Hannah Silva. My first question is, what is the birthday cutoff for 3-year-olds? My son's birthday is August 19th.
They have to be 3 by October 1st.
By October 1st. Okay. And then,
I'm sorry, before October 1st, I'm sorry.
okay. And then, wait, you mean of the fall, that school year, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then, what are the class sizes expected to be like?
The classes cannot exceed 15 students.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Tori Miller. I live on Crestbrook Avenue. My question is for the providers that you have selected and that you're using their teachers at. Obviously, they have the correct certifications, but are you going to be making them do lesson plans? Will they have an aide? Is there a nurse at each provider? Those are important things to know.
As we shared in the slideshow, they are required to have the same certifications and are upheld to the same expectations that we have for our staff here and student teacher ratios. So yes, there will be assistants in the room. Yes, they will be required to do lesson planning. As I shared, they will also be participating in every professional development session that we have for Marburg staff here. Our Marburg staff here, you all do not know this, but from 8:15 to 8:45 every morning, we have professional development meetings, and our provider sites, the staff there will be a part of that. We have an in-service day that's on our district calendar for February 16th. Our provider sites, all of their staff will be participating in that, as well as our educational assistants. So it is truly a partnership, and they will definitely be upheld to the same standards that we have here in the district.
But if you haven't hired their supervisor, who's going to be
I'm doing
supervising?
it.
Okay, because it said that you were hiring
me.
him.
It's me.
Person. Perfect. I appreciate that. No problem.
We appreciate
Oh.
Miss Edwards.
Yes, absolutely. Totally understand that.
It's
I just
me.
have one more question about transportation. All of the children that have been selected, there's no chance of coming here because a little girl on our street already goes and she takes not a first student bus, but a MATAV bus. So I didn't know if these are for the providers. There's no chance of coming to Malberg.
Marburg's full.
Perfect. Thank you.
We're gonna go back to the line. The next person is, I'm gonna spell your last name because I don't want to ruin it. Njagu. Michelle, it's your turn. You can unmute yourself.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Hi. I had questions about the staffing and provider sites in terms of substitute teachers. Like, what happens when teachers are absent and how that will affect the kids in the class. This program might be a little different than programs I've worked in or that my daughter's been in, but I find that an ongoing challenge with daycare centers is that oftentimes when teachers are absent, they don't always have a plan in place. They do things like put classrooms over ratio, take kids and split them up and put them into other rooms. I'm just wondering if they're going to have a sub list, the kind of the way the public school would, or a plan in place and what that looks like for teacher absences.
So I thank you very much for your question. That is one of those that I do not have a perfect answer for at this moment. So I don't want to give inaccurate information. So we're going to take that question down and we will get back to you and post an answer to that question because it's a really important one. So thank you.
Okay.
We will get back to you, we promise.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go back to the room next on the mic.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Gallagher. I'm a Barclay resident. I noticed that Marburg has 15 slots, and if you add all the rest of them up, we're probably still like 200 for January. Does that look the same for September 2024 to 2025? Or does the headcount increase for next school year?
I'm sorry, say that you said Marlboro has 15
If
slots.
I saw the slide correct, you guys have 15 currently that are filled, and then other schools, if you add them up, you got about 200 slots total with all the 4 providers. Is that correct?
So at Marlboro, we have 99 seats for
Okay.
typical students. Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
yeah, yeah. No, I'm just wondering from this year to next year, do you have an increase in headcount? So you have I would imagine a pretty
Yes.
sizable headcount.
We'll be
waiting list?
expanding, we will be expanding year over year. So this January
Not at
implementation.
Malberg. I'm sorry.
I'm not at
sorry,
Malberg. I'm
Gina,
sorry. Is the
not at
question specifically at
Malberg. No,
Malberg?
not at
No,
Malberg.
overall. I mean, I'm a Barclay resident, so I mean, that's
Okay.
fine, and I'm concerned about here, but I mean, overall, because
Okay.
I'm sure that's a question we all have. If there's a huge waiting list now, does that waiting list get smaller for September?
So just to be
So-
clear, we're talking about, sorry, Danielle, do you want to take it?
So for next school year, we will be opening 15 more classrooms. So
Okay.
that would be 15 times 15. I'm sorry, I'm not a math person on the spot. But
fine.
that's how many new seats would be available next school year. Again, our 3-year-olds are going to roll over. So every year we reach out to our families and ask our 3-year-olds to commit to their seat again. And from there, we count how many seats we have open
Okay.
and move from there to place students.
So those of us who didn't already get a 3-year-old slot, there's only going to be a set number, like 15 classrooms worth of slots for all of the 4-year-olds for everybody that didn't already apply, assuming everybody takes their slot that's 3 years old going into 4. Is that how that works?
Yes and no.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
We're going to go back to the line. The next person is Bianca Loiseau, Loiseau. Bianca,
Yes.
it is your turn.
Yes, it's Loazo. I think my biggest question was how was the selection process? Because my daughter was low on the 3-year-old list, and there were people who had higher numbers that received an offer, and we did not.
That's not a question for me. That's for Farrah.
So we don't have an answer to that individual question right now, but we will get back to you. We have your information with an answer about that question. I don't have that at my fingertips, but thank you.
Okay, so it wasn't like by number order then from the waitlist numbers?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
So was it not done by number order then? Or you don't know?
I don't have the specific information in front of me as to how exactly that worked, and I don't want to give inaccurate information. So just let me look into it, and then we will definitely get back to you with an answer. That's just not something I have at my
Okay.
fingertips right now about exactly how that was done. And I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't have an answer. Next in the room.
Hello, my name is Andrew DiDomenico. My kid's been coming here for 20 years, and I got the same question that was just asked. I have a letter here from Danielle back in June saying that my son is number 22 on the wait list placement. That's how it's worded, wait list placement, number 22. How come we haven't received any emails, phone calls, letters? I know you're going to say you're going to look into it. I want somebody to call me back. I want to give out my number, and I want my name, and I want somebody to call me back, find out why he's number 22 and wasn't picked. I wouldn't have got this letter if it said he's number 22. And he probably moved up because I'm sure some people did not accept that. And he probably moved up to 17, 18. So why didn't I get one of those letters in November?
So
I've been here 20 years.
So what I would suggest is if you give us your information, you can give it to Dr. Morton, who's superintendent right here, and somebody will get back to you with an answer to that question.
Who should I give this to?
Dr. Morton, who's the superintendent of the schools.
You want this letter? My wife told me to save it. Thank God I listened to her.
Maybe just your phone number.
Yes, sir. Yes, okay. I'll put my name on it. That's my son's name. My first name is Andrew. You want my phone number too? I left it with people like
So
Malberg all week. And nobody got back to me either.
we will definitely get back to you. Thank you
Colleen,
so much for your
Thompson,
question.
Nancy, I called all them and they give me, I'll call you back, and nobody's ever called me back.
We will definitely get back to you. Thank you so much for your
How can I
question.
give you my phone number? Should I give it to you here? Lady in white?
Barbara Wilson in the back can take your information.
Okay.
She's waving her hand.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go back to the line. The next person is Rachel King. Rachel, it is your turn to ask a question.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, I am from the Earlton neighborhood, and I'm just wondering, how do I get on the waiting list? My 3-year-old, I'd like to sign him up, and I'm not sure how to do that.
Our waiting list is currently closed for the 23-24 school year. As you see, we have families that are here now that are still on a wait list and have not been called. From the presentation, as we shared, we opened 150 seats for January, and we had close to 300 people that were still on the wait list. So we will not reopen the wait list unless we have completely gone through our current wait list and we still have empty seats, which we doubt.
I'm talking about for the 24-25 school year.
Okay, those details, as I shared in the presentation, have not been finalized. Once they are finalized, the information will be available on our website.
So for what we're really focusing on tonight is for January. For future preschool students who are interested in starting in the fall, there's going to be a preschool committee that's going to meet. That was in the presentation, the Early Childhood Advisory Council. That council is mandated by the state. When you implement this program, you have to have that council. They are going to be working on all the details for September of next year and going forward. So that's why we don't have any of the information yet, because that committee is going to start meeting next month in December, and they'll start that work. As soon as we have information, we will tell the community ASAP. We'll make sure it's on blast everywhere that you need to find it so that you have all the information you need for next year. But we just don't have that information yet because the committee hasn't met.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next in the room, please.
My name is Leslie Sakaro. I am a retired taxpayer in Cherry Hill. And full disclosure, I am a retired Barclay Early Childhood staff member. We've spoken many times. I was teacher in charge. I have a couple of questions. My first question is, we're talking about the expansion, we're talking about ramping up staff, we're talking about safety. It is my understanding that currently we are missing 3 certified teachers in this building and perhaps 10 teaching assistants. And now we're talking about staffing expansion. And from a safety point of view in this building, I know how important staffing is, and I know the challenges of using subs. How is this going to be addressed now and going forward with a larger program to supervise? I'm old and broken. I'll come back on the advisory committee, but I can't come into the classroom.
Put your name down for that. Whoever you talk to, we definitely do that one. I think that's a question that sorry. Danielle could probably be more specific about it, but I think in terms of us with the subs and the openings we have, I know that they're moving at record pace with the HR department and trying to fill those. I know that the intent, I'm HR committee chair, the intent with posting those those more higher level positions is that the hopes is that they can also, once they're on, help to hire more, so that Danielle can have more of a team to do that. But I know that they're still going to have those open spots. So Danielle might have another plan, but I just want to let you know that HR committee is aware that that's going to be a crunch.
So we are not missing 3 certified teachers within this building. We
Okay.
have 1 teacher that has recently resigned, and her last day was this week. So we're not missing 3.
So you're only
teachers.
missing 1 teacher.
We're only missing 1 certified teacher within this building. We have another teacher that will be gone on a leave of absence later in the year, and I'm trying to be proactive in planning for that position, which is why you will see the postings that are currently on our district website. As far as the assistants, we are not missing 10 assistants. We are currently only missing 6 assistants that we need to fill. And with that 6, we have, since the start of the school year, had consistent substitutes that are coming in daily. So it's not that our classrooms have a different person that is supporting them each day. We have been fortunate that we've had consistent substitutes that enjoy being here and engaging with our students and are coming back daily to support our students.
So on any given day, each classroom in the building is fully staffed?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, my other question is, Caitlin, I'm glad that you're here. Historically, the Cherry Hill schools have provided a well-balanced program in this building, an inclusive model. I had extensive conversations with Catherine Thomas over the summer because my concern is that the self-contained special ed classes are isolated in one wing of this building, which was never the model, both when we were in the original Malberg and when we moved here. Catherine Thomas told me that the state model is that inclusion should occur naturally at all times within the building. I don't know how that's possible when they're isolated in one wing of the building.
You want to speak to it?
I don't know what you mean by isolated, like they're not.
All of the
they're not
self-contained,
restricted from the other parts
No.
of the building.
but all of the self-contained classes are in one wing. So the access to their typically developing peers does not occur naturally the way it did historically. I was a self-contained teacher. I was always involved with my inclusion teachers so that my students had typically developing role models at all times.
Sure, and I mean, I'll let Ms. Edwards speak to that because it is her building.
Mhm.
You know, we monitor compliance at the district level,
Mhm.
and certainly that is a valid concern. What I will say is there's at times space issues within the building. So we want to make sure that our students are safe. There's also, you know, any given year, the way they organize a building can change. So that's not to say that the way it's set up this year is going to be the way that it's set up next year. Did you want to add on to that at all?
So with the state model, students should not transition often. That is a state guideline that transitions should not be often. It takes away from the instructional day. So that's first. Two, we do have our students that are in this wing of our hallway that are self-contained classrooms because there are bathrooms in that classroom. And we feel that that is the best way to support our students in our self-contained classroom. We do also, there is an inclusive opportunity on the playground where our self-contained students and our typically developing students engage during their free time on the playground. Outside of that, there are many opportunities where the teachers find ways to have the students engage together. They are not, it sounds like you're saying they're restricted to that hallway, and they're
I'm not using,
restrict-
I
You
chose
said
not to use
isolated.
that word.
Okay,
They're isolated.
They are not isolated to that hallway. There are many opportunities where they are on this side of the building, and both our inclusion and our self-contained teachers, they meet often to plan like, for example, we just finished our tree study. Our self-contained and our inclusion classrooms engaged in the tree study together. Same activities. We had Smokey the Bear come and do a small assembly for the students, and our inclusion and self-contained students were a part of that.
Ms. Sakaro, I appreciate your questions, but I want to make sure that the preschool families also have a
Okay.
chance to ask questions. If you have further questions, I really encourage you to submit them to us. and
I've
we will get.
submitted them since the spring,
And we've met, we've had meetings.
once,
Yeah, we did
with
have a
no
meeting.
follow-up.
So we're happy to have more follow-up.
Okay.
Continue to move on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next on the line is Kristen Polidoro. Kristen, it's your turn. Kristen, please unmute. We can't hear you. Okay, now we're going to move on, Ms. Polidoro, while you work that out with somebody whose name is Kritika, Kritika. You are next, and we will unmute you so that you can, please unmute yourself, and then we can hear what you're saying. Thank you. Please give us your name when you come on. Unmute. There you go.
Hi, am I audible?
You are. You're great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this event. It was very informative. We just moved into Cherry Hill on Green Tree Way. So I registered my kid this August. She'll be turning 3 next June 2024. So my question is, when I need to register her for the preschool program, and do we need to re-register her? So this year when I registered my elder one, I registered my younger one as well at the Cherry Hill site.
So thank you so much for your question. We don't have information about registration upcoming for future years now. The focus of this meeting tonight is for people who are starting in January, coming off the wait list. As soon as that information is available, we'll put that out to their community so that you can have it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Next up in the room, please.
Hi, my name is Nazmul Hassan. I missed the deadline, but I was just confused about the registration process. You said there's private sites. Are we applying just through one source? And then are you randomly assigning us, or do we pick if we get chosen? Like, how does the process work with these other sites now?
So when you complete our enrollment process, when the application is released, you then are assigned a number once we complete our lottery on the wait list if you're not selected. But if you're selected through the lottery, you must register through the district. And yes, we do have a placement process where we place you at a provider site. At this time, we do not have parent choice in where they're placed. Again, just with the parameters of how we're planning the programming out as we expand.
So I saw you have a spot in Voorhees and Oakland. So no matter where you are in Cherry Hill and where you're chosen, ideally, if we get the transportation, it'll transport us to Oakland, right? We don't have to worry about that.
That's correct.
Okay, so it doesn't really matter where you get placed because it's not
'Cause you
an
can have
issue of
transportation.
accessibility. Okay, that was
Yes.
my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There's nobody else online, so we're going to keep going in the room.
Hi, I'm Kristen Canine. Had a couple questions. The offsite providers, teachers, I believe I read in the FAQ, so it may not have been there. It could have been like on Facebook, but I don't believe that they are Cherry Hill employees, Cherry Hill School District employees. Is that correct?
They are not.
Have you guys done background checks? Like, what
They are
is that
required.
process?
They are with daycare providers and also with public school district employees. They are always required to have background checks.
Okay.
And they have to go through the same process. All providers, as they are hiring their employees, they are submitting their employees' information to our HR department, and we are vetting it to ensure they have the background check and also to ensure they have the proper certification before they can be hired to fulfill the role at the provider site.
Okay, are they meeting with anybody from the Cherry Hill School District in the interview process and whatnot as they're hiring?
Not through the interview process.
Okay, I mean, I do have a little bit of concern with that from a safety perspective. So my child is on the wait list, was given a spot, and I have to decide by tomorrow whether I'm going to accept it or if I should re-enter the lottery next year. Will there be additional sites next year? So I understand that like the new classrooms won't be here. But how are we expanding 15 additional classrooms next year? Is it more sites? And what are they?
So some of the sites that we're currently partnering with, they will open more classrooms next year.
Okay.
We have one additional provider that we are currently hoping to partner with, but that partnership is not finalized, so I do not want to mention that site yet.
Totally makes sense.
But yes,
And
it will
so-
be more provider sites that we are opening these 15 classrooms,
All right.
yes.
Last question, which I'm sorry, it's been one long run-on question. But so if I accept a position, I get placed in an offsite provider. If I'm not happy with the education or the program, am I able to remove my child and enter the wait list for a different site next year? Or am I locked into that site?
No, you're locked into that site. So if
Okay.
you're unhappy, you of course have the authority to unenroll your student, but you would
Okay.
not go back on the placement. The wait list, you would be declining your seat.
Okay.
Can I just make sure you answer one part of your question, just because it was the same question that was online
Oh,
concerning the
sorry.
private providers? I'm not sure what exact position, but one of those higher level roles is the major responsibility of it is making sure that those provider sites are doing exactly what they're doing in this building. So ensuring that they're teaching our curriculum, they're using our rules for safety in that classroom. It'll act a little similar to the way Abbott classrooms acted 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Okay,
I'm
not
And I-
familiar.
not
with
familiar.
I'm
that.
sorry.
but-
I'll add to what she's sharing. So we have the preschool supervisor that we're hiring for. So the preschool supervisor, myself and Dr. Mahan, we will be
Okay.
regularly visiting our provider sites.
Okay.
In addition to that, some of the positions. So one is a preschool intervention and referral specialist. With that position acts as a coach that will also be going to the provider sites to support the staff there in their implementation of social and emotional support and instruction to our students. And then we have a preschool instructional coach who will also be a district employee that will be visiting the private provider sites regularly to support the teachers to ensure implementation, proper implementation of our curriculum. So there will be heavy oversight from our district. There will be a constant presence of district employees at the provider sites.
Obviously this isn't possible today, but is it possible to have a district employee in each site every single day? Is that an option? There's
We
no
can
way.
answer that question.
Okay.
I did want to add, all the provider sites were vetted by the Department of Education. They came and did walkthroughs of all the sites and had to be approved. So one of the reasons, part of the questions that we answered early on is, why is there a wait list? You guys got all this money. Why can't you just open the doors and let everybody in now? There's such a high demand. And the answer is because our highest concern is safety and the quality of the programs.
Yeah, totally.
So, I mean, I feel like I understand because I had, like I said, 3 preschoolers
Yeah.
here. I get it. I was on the wait list, waiting to get off the wait list, checking my mail every day because it was in the mail back then. It's a lot of pressure. And when you need childcare for your child and January is 4 weeks away and we're all sweating it, I completely understand, but we have to make sure that, and we are sure that the provider sites that we are working with are up to the standards that we hold for our Cherry Hill students. These are classrooms that will be, the experience in the classroom will be identical no matter where you are. So whether you're in this building or you're in one of the provider sites, the program, the curriculum, all those things are the same. And they had to go through all of the same checks that our buildings have to go through. So I mean, I can't make the decision for
Yeah,
you,
no.
only you know what's right for your kid.
Right.
But I can tell you that this model has worked well in the state for, as Ms. Elmore Stratton said, 20 years. The state's preferred model is a mixed delivery model. It is a feature, not a bug.
Okay.
That's the way that we can expand preschool to be delivered to all of our students. If we had to try to house them all in district, we need a building the size of Cherry Hill West. It's just impossible. And it wouldn't be good for them either. They do better when they're in the community. And I think with all the interaction between the district and the provider sites, we can ensure that it's a quality experience for our children.
Just that we're trying to also just look at the questions that are coming in online. And this is a question that's come in. The students will all be in our provider sites. They will still only be with Cherry Hill students. So they're not going to be in mixed classrooms with students from other towns.
I just still want to speak on, again, just the question about hiring. We did have a preschool job fair recently. Again, we are working closely with our providers. We actually have a provider here in the building. We're working very closely with them to support them in ensuring they're hiring high quality staff. So just wanted to give you all that little tidbit too. As I shared, we are vetting them through our HR department prior to being hired. No, we are not meeting with them directly, but there are forms that the providers have to fill out and submit to us, as well as verification of their background checks and their certifications. Okay.
Next in the room, please.
All right, so 2 questions, one stemmed off of someone else's. In the FAQ, it says that you will be placed with the providers based on home address. Whereas how the question was answered before was if no matter where in Cherry Hill, you could be placed all the way out in Oakland. So I need clarity. Based on home address, what does that even mean to you guys? Yeah.
So my goal was to have the students together that they're going to go to to elementary school with, to kindergarten with. You bring up Oakland, everybody lives far from Oakland.
Yes.
So,
So the reason I'm thinking of that is because I'm smack dab between Discovery and Clockwise. So if there's a shot of going out to Voorhees and Oakland, even though I'm right in between the two closer ones, then that's gonna probably sway our decision for tomorrow.
but it's not a proximity to the daycare, to the actual preschool. That's the programming. It was based on how many students actually said yes, how many parents actually said yes, how many spaces there were in each program, so that I could try and keep the students together who are going to go to kindergarten.
So you're
together.
gonna try and balance it the best you can, but
Correct.
there's 45 in one, 15 in another, and then
There
it goes
wasn't-
from there. I didn't see what the other ones were because I was more concerned with the first two.
So
but
Family Matters only has 30 seats
Okay.
available. Oakland has 60 seats available.
Okay, yeah, so more spaces. Okay.
And also, students were already, had already been placed and were already attending both Discovery Corner and Clockwise. So they took up seats that were already.
Yeah, trying to keep them where
Yes,
they're
and
used
there
to.
were only 15 seats at Clockwise.
Okay. All right.
I hope that answers.
Did those two, are there still seats at those locations left? Or are you still are you now filtering into the Voorhees and the Oakland?
We filter into all of the programs.
Okay, so as evenly as possible, I guess.
Yes, because I
Okay.
didn't want to put one student who's going, let's just say, to Joyce Kilmer. If I had 4 students, let's just say, because there's 4 programs, I didn't want to put one student in each program.
Yeah, okay. And then the question that got me to stand back up was just clarity on the response for the decision tomorrow. You have the form that can be brought in, mailed in, or emailed in, well, not mailed, brought in or emailed in, that one sheet that came with your letter. And then you have the pre-registration, which tight with the holidays. But so my question is, if I sent in that form, does the pre-registration also have to be in by a specific time tomorrow? Or does that pre-registration have a little bit of a buffer?
Pre-registration and just registration in general just needs to be completed as soon as possible. As we
Okay.
shared earlier, that is a holdup on our transportation process. So we are trying to work with families, but we need it completed as soon as possible. Again, to get out the bids, I believe you said December 12th, to get them
Okay.
out with the job. So and our registration department is actually working overtime to register these 150 students before that
Yeah.
December 12th date. So it's, again, just imperative that
Yeah.
all families just complete registration, upload those documents as soon as possible.
All right,
So everyone
awesome.
can be placed.
I've already prepped the one letter to be emailed if we make the decision. It's scanned and it's in a draft.
And if
It's
I can-
just the pre-registration that might hold me up tomorrow, so.
And if I can just add, if you've received
Yeah.
a phone call that we are missing documents, that holds up the registration as well.
Okay.
And I cannot place your student on a bus unless if you are completely registered.
Okay. We'll hopefully not be using a bus, but yeah, thank you.
So I just want to acknowledge, for your question, and a lot of people, we appreciate that we're still in the very early phase. This announcement came out, 6 weeks ago that we got the funding. We realize it's a quick turnaround. We absolutely understand and recognize there's pain points, and there are going to be. Busing is an enormous pain point overall in the country, in the state, in Cherry Hill, in this district. It is I can't imagine the amount of money we spend on busing in this district, because it's just expensive and it's a huge job that Mrs. King, I have no idea how you do it. So we appreciate the sensitivity and understanding, and we realize it's also, there's a lot of frustration. And this is our launch. So we're going to have bumpiness. So we just thank you for bearing with us and understanding. And we hopefully over time, the excitement and the fantastic nature of having completely tuition-free busing to preschool, highly high quality preschool is going to be worth it for all of us in the long run. So anyway, thank you.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes, pardon the interruption. I just wanted to let you know that we are now at 8:05 p.m. That leaves us about 25 more minutes for Q&A. Just letting you know.
So we only have 25 more minutes and we have a bunch of hands raised online as well. So I'm going to ask the rest of everybody if we can move through the questions as quickly as possible. If we do not get to your question, we will still answer your question. You can put it in the chat. You can email us. Your time with us ends at 8:30, but your questions are forever. So please continue to send us your questions. I'm going to go back online to Molly T. Molly T, you are next.
Could you unmute?
Did I unmute? Hello?
Yeah, you're good.
Hi, Molly Torme. We live in Downs Farm. I was just wondering, for the Clockwise site, you said there was 15 spots available there in one classroom. Is it just 4-year-olds? Or is it just 3-year-olds, or is it mixed? It's one classroom.
All of our classrooms are mixed with 3 and 4-year-olds.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go back to the room.
Hi, my name is Michelle Carranza. Hopefully it's a quick question. And you started to touch on it, but I just wanted to know the students that accept and are going to one of the provider sites, are they going to a classroom full of students that are starting fresh that day, like January 2nd, all new students, or going into a classroom and maybe filling 2 or 3 spots and the other 12 kids have been there and know each other?
So for Discovery and Clockwise, as we shared, there were Cherry Hill residents that were already attending. So for some of those classrooms, that is true. For all the other classrooms, it will be all brand new students that are starting in January.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back online. Marilise Coratolo, you are next. Please unmute yourself. Marilise Coratolo. Yep, we can hear you.
With special education, are they placed at all schools, all sites, or is it only at Malberg, or how does that work?
Since the beginning of the planning phase of this whole process, special education central administration has been involved, and we're working closely with districts who are already in the grant in the middle of the process, and collaborating with special education directors in those districts as to how they phase students with IEPs in. But there will be, as we move forward in the 5-year process, spots that are set aside for students with IEPs. And they will be placed as inclusion classrooms at the provider sites as well. However, we do monitor the compliance for them. Our district monitors the compliance for those students, and they're Cherry Hill students as well with IEPs. So yes is the answer to that question.
It'll be at all the sites. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go back in the room. You're next.
This is very high for me.
I feel that because I'm very short.
I'm very short. So my name is Naz Booker. I have a child here already, and my daughter will be going to Discovery Corner. So I just have a few quick questions. Being that he just talked about that. So I do have one. My child that's going to Discovery Corner does have a diagnosis, but it didn't qualify for special education here. If it comes down the road where she does have challenges in that classroom and does need an IEP, how would that work? Would she be able to have services provided there, or would we have to start the whole process and she would have to transfer here?
It would really depend on, at that time, the recommendation of the child study team. So if we can provide services at that site, that's what we would try to do.
Okay.
Depending on the level of service and support that the student needs, because we will not have self-contained classes at the provider sites.
Okay.
Our self-contained programs will remain at Malberg.
And to add to that, as I mentioned, the preschool intervention and referral specialist position, that is part of their role in supporting the provider sites. For students that display challenging behaviors, they are there to support the teacher and provide strategies to implement and document and monitor the progress of the student. And if it comes to it that we feel the student does need to be tested, the district is notified and we go through that process, and to what Caitlin just shared as far as the child study team identifying what may need to happen.
Okay, in addition to that role, I know Maureen's the social worker here, but how are there social workers at the different sites? Or is Maureen monitoring all the sites?
Maureen is a case.
Yep.
Maureen is a case manager.
Sorry, Maureen.
Maureen is a case manager for our special education program. Our preschool program will have their own separate social worker that will be supporting our program here and also our provider sites.
Okay, and then just two more questions. For lunch, are we still doing the same process at the other sites? Like, would that be going, like, are we getting the same menus? Is it generalized or is it different
No.
per school site? Is it provided by
It's provided by the providers. It's not provided by the district.
So their process would be separate from like what we go through with paid school systems?
Yes.
Okay, and then the last one is, you mentioned open house. Is that coordinated by the sites or is it coordinated through Cherry Hill?
It's coordinated with us in the sites in conjunction.
So we'll be receiving emails from
From us.
From you guys, okay. And then the community parent involvement professional, is that per site or is it just one person? for all
That's
sites?
per every 300 students we have. So we'll have one this year.
Okay.
Next year, because we're opening more classrooms, we'll have over 300 students, so we'll have 2 next year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Next online is Longhorns 01. Longhorns 01, it's your turn to ask a question. Please say your name. And
Hi,
unmute
sorry
yourself.
about that. My name is Brian McCluskey. I had a question. Can transportation be provided to 2 different houses if they're both in Cherry Hill?
Yes, as long as both parents provide the paperwork to our registration department to prove residency.
Okay, and a second question, if the student is accepted for the 4-year-old preschool, are they automatically enrolled into kindergarten next year, or do we have to re-enroll for kindergarten?
That is a better question for our registration department, but I do know from the process here at Malberg, there is a way that we provide a sheet that kind of bumps them up, so you don't have to go through the entire process again. I am not directly involved in that process, so I can't explain it explicitly, but there is a process where they are bumped up. You would not have to fully re-enroll into our district for kindergarten.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next in the room, please.
Hi, my name is Brandy Cohen. I live in Earlton South. I'm actually looking for the 24 school year, next year, 24, 25. I know you mentioned there was 15 kids in each class. How many teachers in there with the 15? Like how many teachers per class?
There is one certified teacher and there is one assistant for every 15 students.
Okay. Thank you. And then the other question I had was, how many are currently on the wait list?
I honestly don't know that number off the top of my head. We are, as I said, on it daily, looking through the wait list. Again, as one of the parents have shared, they have until tomorrow to
you have a
accept or
rough-
decline. I
Is it
honestly
like
do not.
300 or like?
Well, I know it's less than 300.
Okay. Because I'm
Because
wondering
it
just for future school year, like, because the kids on the wait list for, that don't get in this coming January, they're going to be first in next year, right?
They will not.
They will not. Okay.
There will be a brand new wait list for next school year.
Okay. And then
Yes.
that information will come out when you guys release it.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Miss Elma Stratton. Oh, we have a transportation question.
Mrs. King, there's one online that I can't find on the website to answer. So could you please tell us about the safety protocols that will be for the buses, specifically about 5-point harnesses and car seats was the question?
Yes. So buses are different than your car. So they have different laws, and because buses are actually, believe it or not, school buses are the safest way to travel in the United States. are safer than airplanes, they're safer than boats, they're safer than your cars. So the weight, the state doesn't have any protocol to put anyone in a car seat. But I have learned that safety wise, it's best practice for any students that are not 5 years old and under 40 pounds be in a car seat. So we will continue to do that. That's why you were asked on your paper to give the weight of your student. Students are weighed 3 times a year. They're weighed in May, they're weighed in September, and they're weighed in January, just so that we can make sure that they are in the proper seats. If they are not in a car seat, they are in a seatbelt.
You're very welcome.
Next in the room, please.
Hi, I'm Jenny Morris. I live off Church Road. So I was a little concerned about why did you guys not hire staff through Cherry Hill and why are you going with the provider staff? Just because some of the reviews that I'm reading about some of the choice schools, I'm a little concerned about the reviews that I'm hearing about the teachers and the staff that work there.
So this is more, I feel, a state thing. The state is partnering with provider sites. It is their preferred model that we partner with local providers to provide preschool expansion. So it's what we have been, can't think of the word I want to use, but it's we have to partner with provider sites. It's a state mandate.
And you can't put your own staff in there. You have to go with their staff.
Yes.
Okay, even though there might be some red flags with their staff.
So again, that's why there's extreme oversight in our partnership. That's why there's so many additional positions that come with the funding that will regularly be visiting the sites to ensure the safety of our students. That is, of course, our top priority. I always share at back to school night. I share in conversations with parents, and I truly live by it. If it's not okay for my child, I have a daughter, then it's not okay for the kids that I'm serving. And my staff and anyone that knows me can speak to that. I will never put someone else's child in a predicament that I wouldn't want my own child in.
Right, and I understand that. I know there's going to be maybe like 3 of you, and you're going to go there and you're going to frequently visit them, but like you're not there on the day to day. So maybe what they do while you're there is different than what they do when you're not there. Do you know what I mean? Like I work in a school, I know how it goes. It's like a kid. They act one way at home and they act another way in school. So how do we know? How do we ensure? Because they have nothing to lose. They don't work for you. They work for the providers. And
They
if the
do.
providers are letting things slip through the cracks through some of the reviews, how do we know that they're going to ensure that even with you?
Ms. Edwards, if I can just jump in. Yeah, so each of the provider sites, again, had to be vetted through a stringent process with the
And I
New
understand
Jersey
that,
Department
yeah.
of Education. There's very strict criteria for them to even apply to be listed as a provider site. So there is a tremendous amount of expectation. There's a tremendous amount of accountability. Our district staff has been mentioned previous times. We'll be there and we'll be on site and we'll have a close relationship with the provider sites. The expectation is that we expect they're going to live up to what they told us that
We
they'll live
do,
up
yeah,
to.
but
You know, we expect the same thing of our district staff as well, and follow a similar process in trying to ensure accountability and making sure that everyone is living up to the expectations that we've set forward. So excellent questions.
Still have another one. Did you want to ask something?
Licensing childcare license. So
Right.
in response to just nothing to lose, there's a lot to lose.
I
So
mean,
if
the
they're not
school,
following
yeah.
Providers, that school is getting affected way more, on a larger scale.
Right. Just basically, like I said, some of the reviews that we're reading about some of those providers saying that the directors are letting certain things slip, they still have their license and they're still running. How did you guys go about selecting some of the providers as well?
I'm sorry,
ahead,
I just
it's
want to
okay.
add super quick.
Sure.
Cherry Hill, I think currently, it varies year to year, about the 12th largest district in the state. So, with busing contracts, there's a lot of leverage that comes with it. So to be clear, if we work with a provider site, and there's an issue and that becomes a problem, that means a lot in this area. We're 1/3 of Camden County. Cherry Hill is 1/3 of Camden County. So just kind of understanding too, there is a strength in that, and we definitely are aware of that. So just as another sense of, another layer to that. But
Yeah.
anyway, to go on with your questions.
Right. So why did you choose some of the locations that you chose?
So meetings were held beginning last January, I believe, and all Cherry Hill providers were invited to come and hear about what preschool expansion might look like and invited to work with us. So that was one step that we took. And we're still asking, if you have a preschool provider in mind that you absolutely love, talk to them about this opportunity to work with us, because we would love to work with them. I will say that 2 of our providers are experienced in preschool expansion with other districts. So they were super excited to partner with Cherry Hill because they know exactly what the strength of this program is, and they've had success in it before. So I think that's an asset because we had to implement so quickly. We found out in October, we're starting in January. We needed people who we knew would be on board with us. And I think also there's a little bit of trepidation. This is our transitional year. We're starting in January. We just got the funding. We're never going to be in this moment again. From now going forward until forever, Cherry Hill will have preschool, and over the next 5 years as we ramp up, and I think as we work out the kinks and people see what this program looks like, we're going to hopefully get more buy-in from our Cherry Hill providers so that we can truly expand out and serve everybody. So, but the state requires that we partner with provider sites. That's their preferred model. It's their mixed delivery model. It's not, like I said, it's a feature, not a bug. Kids do better when they're cited in the community and community partners. I understand your concerns. I do. And I want to acknowledge them. It's picking a preschool is really hard. My youngest was a preschooler during the pandemic. And let me tell you, thinking about sending him to preschool when I couldn't even go in and see the buildings, I couldn't go in the front door, and just sending him in there, it was one of the most terrifying moments of my life. I thought I was a crazy person, but he had to go because we were just flailing at home. So I get it on a visceral level, and we will do everything in our power to make sure that every kid, no matter where they're placed, is having a wonderful preschool experience and is safe and cared for and learning and ready to go when they get to kindergarten.
Okay. And then when you do the expansion, you're going to hire new staff, like Cherry Hill staff, or are you going to use staff from the provider sites? Like when you do the expansion? When you do the expansion, are you going to?
So any,
Yeah, like when you physically construct and you add those new classrooms, are you going to be
so
hiring
any
those staff
classrooms
members?
that are in district will have Cherry Hill employees. Any
Okay.
classrooms that are at a provider site will have employees from that provider site.
We have, so we have just a few more questions. We actually only have, it's 8:23, and I see 2 hands online, and I want to make sure that we get to everybody. So I'm going to go, because you've already asked a question, I'm going to go to the line now because some people have been waiting a long time. I don't want to run out of time. Thank you. I want to go with Yasel Tamayo. Yasel, I know you've been waiting a long time. It is your turn. Please ask your question and unmute.
Hi, I'm audible.
Yes, you are perfect. Thank you.
Apologies. So one of my questions is, I sent in my acceptance letter today actually and received a response that they've got in my email. How long will I wait until my son gets chosen a provider?
Registration is working as quickly as they can to get through all the students that have accepted a seat. Again, as Linda King shared, we are hoping to have everyone placed before December 12th, so we can, 12? By the 11th, I'm sorry.
Okay.
To ensure that we have our bus routes set to start on January 2nd.
Okay, thank you. Another question is quickly, I live in Cherry Hill Boulevard, and this, I believe Discovery, is it? It's just across the Route 38. How would that work if, placing my son there versus in Voorhees, which is 50 minutes or away?
Without having your registration complete, I apologize, I do not have that information.
Thank you so much. We are going to go to Caitlin Bross. Caitlin, we are ready for your question. Caitlin, please unmute. Okay, we're gonna go back to the room. The person who's behind you, I don't think has asked a question yet.
Okay.
So do you want to ask your question?
It's a quick follow-up.
It's cool. You'll be next. I just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance. Go ahead.
My name is Jess Inver. Two questions. The first one is, my son might have a speech need. Would that be able to be met at a provider site? Okay. But no, not specifically, but like in theory, would a district speech therapist be?
It's possible if they're assigned and then determine that services are needed. For the fall of 24, we don't have students with IEPs placed at provider sites.
It would be like a speech only IEP if he needed one.
Yeah, they don't exist at the preschool level.
Okay,
But that's
okay.
another story.
Well, that's good to
But
know.
If there were speech services needed, yes, that's what we would do ultimately, is provide them at the site.
Okay. And the second question would be about like toileting and what needs to be required to that end. Like he's like, how
Can you
much,
clarify?
how independent does he have to be? Like, will he have help in the bathroom? Should he need it?
So we support parents in their toddling efforts. But yes, support is provided when needed.
Okay. Thank you.
That answers. Yes, okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Potty training is always terrifying with 3-year-olds.
I mean, he's
feel
like
you.
85%, but like.
I remember that feeling going into it. My youngest is a Memorial Day birthday and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
But we
mine's
made
2
it.
weeks earlier.
We made it. Okay, we're gonna.
He thinks he's toilet trained.
I hear you. Next in the room.
So mine was just a follow-up on the bus question. We were planning on not using busing if it was at the 2 Cherry Hill locations, but obviously if there's a probability of going to the other ones, we may need a bus. Is it better to just say you need the bus off front just so that you get in? And if you end up getting placed close enough, you can easily just say, just take me out of the bus.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
100% yes.
Yes.
Like I said,
Look, we got one, guys.
quick follow-up. I would have just raised my hand, but I figured you needed to
We
move
only got
on.
to 8:27, but we had an emphatic yes. One last question in the room. Thank you so much for waiting. It is now your turn.
Hi, my name's Allison. I actually spoke with Farah for like an hour a couple of weeks ago about this because we were fortunate that we were placed like on the first set. There are some differences between what she told me and what I'm hearing here, which is a little concerning. And I guess my big question is, she basically told me that I could submit it because I mean, I know like myself and everyone here, our kids are not only going to preschool in January, they're pandemic babies. So you're
I'm
adding like
sorry
a
to
whole.
interrupt you. Farah is online, so if there's something you want to clarify, she can hear you. If you want to ask her a specific question.
So when I spoke with her, I basically was like, well, I don't necessarily feel comfortable. Like when you buy a house, it tells you what elementary school you're going to. You're asking us to sign up. They're not Cherry Hill employees. Like there's a lot of gray area, and it's not to diminish like what's been done. It's a wonderful thing, but we are the guinea pigs and there's no getting around it. Her big point was that Malberg will be the same after listening. It's really not. And I don't really know how you can stand up here and say that because it's not. Like you don't even know how you're handling subs. So to say that they're exactly the same is really not an accurate depiction. And I do think as a parent and an educator myself, honesty and clarity goes a long way. So I think just being a little more upfront with that would also like make people a little less anxious. So I do want to say that because it's, if you can't tell us how subs are being run and filled, you can't say they're the same because you know how your subs are run in your school. You can clearly say how many teachers there are as you just addressed it to her. So it's not the same. But a big thing she told me was that I could submit and say he's going. And then if I'm not happy with his choice, I don't have to send him. But you're saying next year, if I put in, he's getting the same placement. She told me that's not true. She actually said they don't even know how they're doing placements next year, if Malberg will be decided upon those extra spaces by location as the other ones or not, that they don't know. But you told this young lady that it was the same. So what's the answer?
I'll wait for Farah to respond.
And while I don't know if she's available to answer on, then if we can bring her in, but I do want to just really clarify something. What we are saying is the provider sites, it's certified teachers, it's the same standards. We are not saying every single moment of every day is going to be handled exactly the same way. They are provider sites. They are partners. Lunch is different.
They
right?
are, but even Farah told me the
But-
kids
but-
will be integrated and you said they won't be. Cause I said like at my son's current daycare, they do like, he's in one class and another class, they do meet together for their specials. And she said that that can happen, but you
Correct,
said
but
that it won't happen.
They, what I said was the children in the 15 children in the singular classroom will be Cherry Hill students. I didn't say they're not ever going to mix in with the other kids.
That's what
They definitely will.
Okay.
They certainly will, just the way they do here, just as we talked about the kids who are in self-contained can mix in with our other classrooms.
that's
So
not
yeah,
how
just to
the
clarify, if
answer
it wasn't
came.
clear, I apologize,
Yes.
but the kids in the singular class, it will not be children from Voorhees and Oakland and Cherry Hill all in a singular 15-child classroom. That will be Cherry
She
Hill kids.
basically said that they can be integrated as per the sites, except for like religious. So like when you're saying providers, I know you had a hard time because, for example, synagogues don't want to give up the religious component, which I get. Education is secular, but so that was a reason that they are not choosing to integrate because it's hard to keep that separate. But so she said like they can be integrated, just they have, like if they're gonna do like a Santa project, they can't be at that time. So I think the crossing of the classes is a little more than, yes, they're the same 15 students enrolled, but that doesn't mean that they're not integrated throughout the day.
Yeah, so Dr. Mahan has obviously been very integral and closely aligned with this process. I couldn't say what your conversation was about. You two had the conversation together. She isn't here today, so I think it'll be appropriate for us to follow up with you. She can follow up with you when she's available and able to have a conversation. But thank you for your questions. Definitely appreciate it.
Farah asked if you would leave your name and number, and she would give you a call back.
So it is now 8:32, and for those of you who know me, you know that I'm never on time. So I'm actually pretty impressed with us here in the room that we got close. I really want to thank everybody who came here tonight and who participated online. I hope that many of your questions were answered. I hope that you feel like you got the information that you needed about our program. I hope that we had some good dialogue tonight. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you working with us. We understand, just to echo what's been said up here, this is a transitional year. This is our first moment of doing this. It was a tight timeline, and we understand that that's anxiety producing for all of us. Believe me, for you guys on that side and for us on this side, we want to make this as best as we possibly can for you and your students. For many of you, this is your first introduction to Cherry Hill Public Schools, and we want it to be a great one. We appreciate your patience and your understanding with the timelines and the turnaround. We know that's stressful with small children in a holiday season with a lot going on. So with all of those things, I just want to thank you guys for your openness to come here tonight to talk to us, your participation. We're excited about the program going forward. I think when we look back 5 years from now, when we have tuition-free preschool for all of our Cherry Hill students, we're going to say that maybe parts of the road were bumpy, but ultimately it was a wonderful thing for our community. I hope we'll all look back and feel that way. So thank you all again tonight for participating. I really appreciate it. Oh, and Ms. Elmore Stratton just reminded me, if you have any remaining questions that you didn't feel comfortable coming up to the mic, questions for tonight, you can email any of us. All of us, we are happy to take your emails. You can send us an email and you will get a response. We're looking to answer as many questions as we can. So please, this is not the end of the conversation. It's just the beginning. You can email Dr. Morton, I'm being told, is the person who loves receiving your emails the most, although I love receiving them as well. So you can CC me if you would like to. Dr. Morton.
My email is K Morton, MORTON, at CHCLC.org. You're welcome.
Thank you all so much for coming tonight. Have a great night.